Pokemon X/Y is the game I've played the most out of probably any game I've ever played because it's the main game I played when I was little, and my sister and I have a pretty much yearly tradition to replay the game. I've been playing it recently both for an upcoming video and also for the yearly tradition, and even though this is one of my favorite games of all time, I can still admit that the game is incredibly flawed. I put out a short on this topic a few days ago, and today I just want to talk about a few more of these flaws, because I think it'll be kinda interesting to pick apart one of my favorite games and see what's objectively wrong with it. I'm gonna avoid the more popular points that are usually talked about, like the game being too easy or the 3D models being kinda weird, because everybody already knows about those. So I'll be focusing on stuff I've picked up on that I haven't seen a lot of others talking about. I'll just be kinda talking at you this whole video, and I won't be doing a whole lot of editing because I spent this whole week making a different video and had to rush this one, but it is what it is. Make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video, it helps me out a ton, and let's get started. Okay, I've got 3 points I want to talk about, so let's start with the lacking variety of Pokemon from different regions. Pokemon XY was criticized on release for only introducing a small amount of new Pokemon, but I think we need to talk about a few other region-related things that are flawed in this game. For example, there are very few Johto and Sinnoh Pokemon in this game, with a lot of them being caught in ways you wouldn't usually think to do despite them being lacking in number in the first place. For example, Shuckle being a 5% encounter from a Rock Smash on a random route, or Politoed being of the same rarity through fishing on another random route. There's also almost the entirety of the Kanto Pokedex accessible in this game for some reason. You could combine the amount of Unova and Johto Pokemon accessible together, and you still have quite a bit less than the amount of Kanto Pokemon available. Hoenn is also lacking in number of Pokemon, and this is probably to get people to buy Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because those came out around a similar time as Pokemon XY, but there still should have been a bigger variety of Pokemon from different regions available. That's all for that one. Now, let's talk about what I talked about in my short about this topic, character development issues. This issue is probably the most complex of the 3 I'm going to talk about. In the short, I just talked about specifically the rivals' lack of development and how they all have their own goals they're working towards and never stop talking about, which they're slowly making progress with as shown at rare points throughout the game, but they never actually progress as characters. They stay pretty much the same person throughout the whole game and never improve on their actual flaws, with, for example, Serena/Calum always comparing themselves to others, and Trevor always being weird and shy, and the other two just kind of being characters without obvious flaws that are just kind of really annoying. It doesn't help that they're only there to make the player feel better about themselves either. You not being able to lose to Serena/Calum in any battle throughout the entire game kind of diminishes that character. That's the main cast's issues, but this also goes for all the other characters in the game. They either don't have flaws or don't develop through their flaws. Lysandre is the closest character to having development, going from a cool, successful, and just slightly weird dude to someone who literally wants to commit terrorism. But his development isn't actually development if you think about it. He's the same person throughout the whole game, but you only see his super evil side later in the game. So it seems like he changes when he actually doesn't. This doesn't mean that Pokemon XY's story isn't emotional. I think it's up there with the likes of Gen 5's plot, if not above it, but the characters just kinda suck. Finally, getting into the last and simplest problem, the gym progression in this game is just weird. I mean, it's not Gen 2 level, but the gaps between gyms 1 and 2, and the quick succession of gyms 3 to 6, and then the gap between 7 to 8 is very weird. And unlike a lot of other Pokemon games, makes it so that the number of badges a trainer has doesn't really accurately mark their progression through their journey. It's not exactly an objective issue, but it's just pretty off-putting and unusual for a Pokemon game, and can make the player feel like they aren't actually making any structured progress at certain points. And there are the 3 flaws in Pokemon Y that I wanted to talk about the most. I still love this game and I thoroughly enjoy playing through it every time that I do, but I can still admit it is pretty objectively flawed. Sorry this video was pretty short and kinda rushed. I promise next week's video is gonna be a lot better than this. Anyway, if you did enjoy, let me know what you think about Pokemon XY in the comments, and subscribing and liking helps me out a lot more than you might think, so consider doing those things. Thanks for watching.